Welcome back to the Revealed Report on the Revealed Radio Network. I'm very grateful you would take time out of your schedule to spend it again with me. Well, I hate to say I was right, unless I'm arguing with my wife, then every now and then I like to hear I'm right. Doesn't happen as often as I would like, but it feels good to be right every now and then. But shh, don't tell her. I'll tell her for myself if I want her to know. But in this particular situation, I'm agreed to be right because that means good law abiding citizens are the ones that are paying that price for me to be right. And I do not take any pleasure in that. You see, in the last couple of episodes, I've been talking to you about how the radical left does not care about lawlessness and crime in their cities. As a matter of fact, they'll use it to their advantage. They like to heat things up in the streets, and then they like to get their lying politicians at the top, claiming that they'll bring peace and have all the answers to bring order back to their cities. They like to have a top down, bottom up approach to flip the whole thing inside out. But what it creates is a greater dystopia, a state of America where the general public is the ones that pay the price, not only in taxes, but with human suffering. You see, the mayor of Chicago went and proved exactly what I've been saying about the radical left in the last couple of episodes. Here in my hands, and if I was the late great Rush Limbaugh, the L. Rush Ball, and I'm not, there was only one Rush Limbaugh, but if I was him, I would be saying right now, in between my former nicotine stained fingers, is an article from Newsmax entitled Chicago Mayor Dodges Policing Questions on MSNBC. And I quote, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson repeatedly skirted a question about whether federal funding for 5,000 more police officers would make his city safer in a Tuesday interview on PMSNBC. Appearing on the cable network, President Donald Trump calls MSDNC, DNC for Democratic National Committee, Johnson, a progressive Democrat who staunchly defends the city's sanctuary policies, dodged questions 5 times about whether more police would help stem crime in Chicago. Would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime? Host Joe Scarborough began. Policing by itself is not the full strategy, Johnson said before being cut off by Scarborough. After a second similar exchange, Scarborough asked a third time, "Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?" I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look, I'm not saying, Johnson began before Scarborough cut him off again, saying he needed a simple yes or no from Johnson. Johnson called adding more police an antiquated approach. I mean, that's yesterday's thinking, man. When Scarborough pressed on him for the fifth time, Johnson responded with, "We are working hard to make sure our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number of officers is the answer. What I'm saying is it's policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care services. Can we provide those services to the radical left? That would be a great place to start. It's policing and youth employment. It's a full package, Johnson said. Of course, we want to make sure our police departments is fully supported, end quote. You see, to the radical left, they believe that all the evil of the world is a byproduct of social injustices, not that social injustices is actually a byproduct of sin. You see, they do not believe that you have to crack down on crime to get rid of crime. Rather, what they believe is you could defund the police and we can get rid of crime. All we have to do is tax everybody and redistribute the wealth. As long as we rid out social injustices, we'll have peace in the streets. So we can get rid of police officers. All we have to do is give them more government welfare. That's all it takes. I mean, it's been working. That was ever since LBJ, right? And sad to say, that ideology is creeping into many of our churches today, where many feel like Jesus' message of coming and to deliver us from our sins is actually not the message. Rather, Jesus came to save us from social injustices. Because we all know Jesus Christ wanted to make us social justice warriors and wanted us to throw Molotov cocktails into buildings and steal Louis Vuitton purses. I must have missed that in the gospel somewhere. You see, the radical left, they believe that all you have to do is redistribute wealth and you can cure all the problems in the world. Just tax the wealthy and, spread it around, make them pay their fair share and everything would be all right. And hey, look, if we can't get rid of the heroin addicts, we just give them free needles. At least they won't kill their neighbor to get them. Welcome to San Francisco or LA. You see, the radical left, they don't operate by moral principles. They don't operate by values. Rather, they operate by going wildly in defiance of the things they are against. In this case, they're going wildly in defiance of President Trump. Anything President Trump says, even if the general public agree with him, they'll go wildly in the face of that and defy him because they can never claim that Donald Trump is right about anything. I mean, he can say he could say, well, if you jump off a building, you're probably going to die. And they'll go, no, 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 you can jump all day long. It's perfectly okay. You can never be right, Trump. They'll defend the most wildest of things. If President Trump says a boy's a boy, a girl's a girl, they'll say, no, that's not true. Girls are boys, boys are girls. And you know what? You can be whatever you want to be. President Trump says that boys shouldn't go in the girls' bathrooms. And they say, no, no, it should happen. President Trump says that men shouldn't be playing the female sports, beating the brains out of females. And the radical left says, no, no, it's perfectly fine. They should be doing that. But really, it's not happened all that much. And that's the problem. See, they'll say it's not really a big deal. It's only happened every now and then. But then the seeds become a full agriculture or crop that's growing upward, and we got a dystopian society. That's what happens. A little bit of seed begins to grow, and then it becomes a whole field of chaos. That's how the radical left works. They get you on the slippery slope, and then they take you all the way to hell with them. And see, we on the right sometimes think that we can just kind of shake hands and come to a really compromise. But with the radical left, once you put your hand in their hand, they want to take you off the cliff into destruction. That's how they operate. That's how they work, and we must reject it. We cannot entertain it. They always have been about if we just lower our morality a bit, then they know they can drag us further and further into their dystopian ideologies. Because the radical left do not operate based on values and principles. Matter of fact, they're chameleons. They just say whatever the people want to hear and give the people whatever they want. So they enslave the people into their power and their control. They're willing to sell their soul for political power and political control. This is why they give out handouts because they're really buying votes. This is why they want open borders. They really want to buy votes. They want to buy popularity because their ideas can't win. Some people ask the question, why don't they just argue out their ideas? They can't because they have losing ideas. They won't win based on their ideas. The only way they win is they have to deceive the masses. They have to lie to the people. I would imagine the old school Democrats are standing around going, these young bucks, they don't even know how to lie well. What a shame. You see, the leftist, radical left, they always have to lie to the people to get you to buy into it. They can't just come out and tell you what they believe. At least President Trump tells you what he believes. You may not like it, but at least he tells you what he's thinking and what he wants to do. The radical left doesn't. You see, what the radical left does is they take a little portion of truth and they wear it as a mask to hide all their agenda. They take a portion of truth and then they take all their lies and pack it behind that so that you buy into it. Black lives matter. Well, that's true. Black lives does matter. But what they really meant was, we're going to burn down your cities. We're going to cause a lot of havoc. And we're not going to take any of the money that you put in our hands and redistribute it to the black community, build it up. No, we're going to buy mansions. We're going to buy nice vehicles. You see, they take a little bit of truth and they pack all their hidden agenda behind it because that's all they do. They wake up to connive. They wake up to try to outfox everybody. How can we deceive the people and how can we gain control? That's what Marxists do. That's what Islamists do. Practice taqiyya, lie to the infidels and get them to buy into this truth. You see, the radical left, they don't operate based on belief. They operate based on power, based on control, based on enslaving you. The Democratic Party has always been the party of slavery, and they're still the party of slavery. They just change tactics. But trust me, it's the same dirty woman, just in a different dress. You see, the radical left doesn't unite on what they believe in. They unite on who they're against. The enemy of their enemy is their friend. Think about it. What does radical leftist Marxists have in common with Islamists? Nothing. They don't have anything in common. The only thing they have in common is who their enemy is. Death to America and death to Israel. And speaking of which, What in the world is going on in New York? Does anybody remember 9/11, where radical jihadists took out the Twin Towers? And now they're going to put what? Mom told Donnie over there? My question is, will 9/11 be a day of remembrance, or will it be a day of celebration? Have we easily forgotten? And what's going on with the conservative right today? I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand questioning Israel and questioning Bibi. That's perfectly fine. But we're really going to side and be sympathetic with those that scream death to America? Really? That's how far we are going? Many are losing their mind and they're buying into the lies of the day. See, the radical left, all they care about is tearing down their opponent. The only reason they hate President Trump is because he's their opponent. As a matter of fact, they talk about how tariffs are never going to work. And that's totally wrong of you, Trump. But yet Nancy Pelosi talked about tariffing. Many of the Democrats talked about tariffing. The only reason they hate it now is because Trump's talking about it. Many of them talked about needing to close down the border. The only reason they hate Trump for it is because he's their opponent and he's in power right now. All they care about is power. They'll sell their soul for power. And they'll unite together so that they can gain power. They'll put their differences aside so they can try to deceive the masses and gain control over them. Now, one thing the right can learn from the left on is how to put away some of our differences. I'm not saying they're not important. We should bring them to the table of reasoning. We should bring them to the table of debate. But in the grand scheme of things, I think we can agree to disagree on a lot of things before we put JB Pritzker's in office, before we put Gavin Newsom's, and before we have any Calamity Kami Harris's, or before we have any AOC's in office. You see, we should be debating everything we believe in, but at the same time, we should be uniting to push back the radical left. Because I was just listening to some Fox host, and they were talking about maybe the radical left is like the dinosaurs. Maybe they'll become extinct. But I believe that's a setup. If we buy into that, we're going to lose eventually, and they're going to come back with a vengeance. The enemy doesn't go away forever, he goes away for seasons, always comes back with a vengeance. The only way we're going to win over the radical left is we don't stand up and sit back down. We don't wake up to go back asleep. We keep standing up. We keep speaking out. We keep pushing back on their ideologies, and we keep taking territory. That's the only way we win. We cannot become those that slumber and sleep right now just because things are going better, just because, as President Trump says, we're winning. We have to keep winning if we're going to maintain that power. Now, I will say the radical left has not waken up, even though they are the party of woke, they're still asleep because they think to win, they have to come out and just call us fascist Nazis because obviously that was very successful in the last election. They're still asleep in all their wokeness because they haven't figured out how to win elections. They haven't figured out how to get the general public back on their side. And that's because of their pride, their ego, and their power control that they have, their hunger for power and control. You see, all they care about is how can I outwit the other side and how can I get myself in a position that I don't have to lose my fortune, fame, my wealth, and my name. They don't really care about the American people. They're not out for you, they're out for them. And thank God President Trump is there. And even though he's a wealthy man, he said, the reason they're after me is because they're really after you. And he was willing to take a stand and, throw everything on the line. He didn't need to become the president of the United States. He could have kept playing golf in Florida. But yet he wanted to do something with this country. I believe President Trump actually loves this country. And I believe he actually wanted to help this country. I believe the only reason that he actually ran is because he said it was a mess under President Barack Obama as he was trying to fundamentally transform America. That's why he ran. And I thank God for anybody who's willing to lay their life on the line to try to make our country better, to make it great again. The radical left, they only agree to try to crush their enemy, crush their opponent. That's why radical Islamists and Marxists will come together. But yet eventually they will eat their own because they don't believe in loyalty. They're only loyal to their own agenda. And when you cross them, they're willing to throw you aside. You see, they begin to eat their own because They're collectivists. They don't care about the individual. They care about the collective. You only have individual value as long as you are participating in helping the collective agenda. But the moment you go against the collective, you lose your individual value. See, the progressive movement, all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson scoffed at the inalienable rights of the individual. He mocked Thomas Jefferson because he wanted to see an all powerful government. He wanted to use the Supreme Court to centralize the power back to the federal government, taking it out of the states and taking it out of the people's hands. And he did a pretty good job. And eventually he created this tax system that we're in today. You see, because they wanted to make government God. And sadly, he was the son of a Presbyterian preacher. But he began to entertain Darwin's theory of evolution, and he believed that our Constitution should evolve since everything else evolves. And so he wanted to evolve it out of the inalienable rights of the individual and make it about the collective majority. He wanted an administrative state where the senators, the House of Representatives, and the president, they're really just puppets. Everything's ran by a bunch of unelected bureaucrats. That's where the CFR and those things came from while he was adopting and writing up the League of Nations. Now, today, we have a lot of NGOs, we have a lot of unelected bureaucrats that seem to be very powerful. We never elected them. And that's why Trump was wanting to drain the swamp. And that's why Doge came into play. It was really just to try to put the power back into people's hands. And yet the radical left hated that. You know why? Because they don't want us to have the power. They don't like us having a government ran by the people for the people. They want a government ran by them. And we say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And we bend the knee to whatever they want us to bend the knee to. I said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. But I guess that would offend some of them today. I guess they, them, or something like that, whatever they want to be that day. Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're going to get more funding from the government by claiming an identity, why not, huh? Except for we have moral principles. We are who God designed us to be. The radical left are chameleons. They're not who God designed them to be. They're chameleons, whatever benefits them at the expense of others. You know, radical leftist ideas would produce things like, we're not so sure you should get health care after the age of 75, at least not like a younger man, because you're not pulling your weight for the collective majority anymore. You're becoming a burden of society. If you have a mental handicap, you're a burden to society. You're not pulling your weight. That's why they don't mind aborting babies, because babies aren't pulling the weight for the collective majority. They don't value human life. And let me remind you, as I said before, any party that doesn't value human life will not value any of your rights. And that's why they're willing to trample on them anytime they have the chance and the opportunity, because they don't care about you. They care about themselves. They'll act like they care about you as long as you align to them. And the moment you don't, they're willing to crush you. They don't believe in mercy because they don't believe in God. They're kind of like Satan, the accuser of the brethren. They'll try to pull things out you done when you were 11, 12, and 13 years old because they don't believe in mercy, because they're humanists. They believe that God doesn't exist. And if God doesn't exist, then mercy doesn't exist either. That's why there's so much hatred today. That's why people will demonize people because of their past. Doesn't matter what they're doing today. I mean, Pete Hegseth, trying to live a better life. But hey, you made some mistakes, some years ago. So we got to hold that over your head. You never get the right to um, to get cleared from your record. You always have to live with that on your record, because without God, there's no mercy. Welcome to the radical leftist dystopian. It's a living hell on earth. It causes destruction. It causes mayhem. But yet, the whole time, they wear the mask of acting like they're for the people. We really care about you. Really, what they care about is buying your votes. And when they can't buy your votes anymore, then they'll trash you. They'll throw you to the side. And yet, they claim that we're the hateful ones, even though we love everybody, even if we disagree with them. I may take jabs at you because your ideas are ignorant, but it doesn't mean I hate you. I pray for you and I wish the best for you, but I want to destroy the ideas that are crushing our country. I believe that America really needs to come back to God. In God we trust, because if we believe in God, then we believe that we should work hard. Because if a man doesn't work, he doesn't have the right to eat. But the radical left, No, they want you on government welfare checks. You know why? Because they can control you that way. You never rise above. You stay a victim. You stay defeated. Now, hey, sometimes we need government welfare checks. I'm not against helping people, but I'm against creating a lifestyle where people live in defeat and they don't rise above to become everything that they can be. They don't strive, they don't work hard. You see, the principles of God teaches us to work hard, to strive, to go beyond. But the radical left, they say, stay put. We're the answer for all your problems. Just empower us. Vote for us. Give us your tax dollars. Let us redistribute it. Let us get rid of your police officers so when you have the criminal break into your house, the police don't make it there in time. Oh, and by the way, we're going to take your gun so you can't protect yourself either. But we'll gift wrap all of our military weaponry to our terrorists overseas. It's an upside down society when the radical left are in place. They don't believe in any form of truth. You can create whatever you want. And yet they do that because they want you to feel empowered. But all the empowerment is to make you feel good. So you bow down to their tyranny. One of the marks of the radical left is they like dystopian mayhem. They like it to be insane. They like to heat up things and they like to cause problems. And they like to blame the other side for all the problems. It kind of reminds me of when Elijah was going to approach King Ahab. King Ahab said, "It's you, Elijah, who troubleth Israel." And Elijah said, "No, it ain't. It's you and your lawlessness and your non-law abiding wife. You see, you just want to do whatever pleases you, Elijah, and whatever pleases your wife, but you don't really want to live out any moral principles. I'm not the problem. You are." And for too long, the right allowed the left to intimidate us, make us feel like maybe we are the problem. Maybe we should lower our standards of morality, and maybe we shouldn't speak out. Maybe we should just shut our mouth because really we're causing problems. But all that was is to try to shut our mouth so they can take more territory and control. It was a clever plan. And they demonized this enough that we had a false guilt. But it's time we throw out the false guilt and we speak up and not be ashamed of it. See, they don't care about freedom of speech, only when it's their speech. They don't want you speaking. They don't mind trashing on you and everything you believe in, but don't you dare respectfully debate them. That makes you an enemy, and then they have to crush you. I want to say that the left has been lying for many, many years now. And those seducing spirits and doctrines of devils have caused many to fall prey to their agenda. Shut the mouth of the right, intimidate them, and we can take more territory. And they started taking over every institution in our nation, from public schools to college universities to the political system. They began to take territory. I thank God that there has been a tide change, and now we've been taking territory. Thank God for the red sweep. But if we're not careful, we can lose it because sometimes we forget and we'll allow them to come back and intimidate us again. Let's not take a back seat. Let's continually stand for the things we believe in. Let's not be ashamed of it. I want to say I'm not ashamed that I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I believe God's name is Jesus. I believe we should live holy lifestyles. I believe we should be good law abiding citizens. I believe that there should be punishment for crime. But the left, anything the Bible says or anything that seems right, they go wildly in defiance of that because they want to be the gods of their own society. The only problem is all the idols are fighting one another and they only align with one another when it benefits each other. It's kind of like some of our geopolitical enemies. They only like each other when they can use each other against America, but they'll be willing to discard each other when there's no longer a benefit there. So, America, I say continually stand up. Don't be deceived. Let us not be intimidated. Don't let the tactics that the left used for many years that we defeated come back and try to defeat us again. Remember, the radical left, they really don't want to unite on anything. You see, if they really did, then they would have stood up at the State of the Union speech when Donald Trump was acknowledging a young man put on the police department. And come on. They hated Trump so much that they couldn't stand for people that should have been honored. They'll talk about partisanship. They don't believe in partisanship. They believe in they rule, you submit, you comply, or if they had their wish, you would die, allegedly. It's not a game. We can act like it is, but you have to understand. They say, well, it's not as bad as the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union wasn't always the Soviet Union. Well, it's not as bad as Nazi Germany. Well, it wasn't always like that. It started somewhere and it continually digressed until it got really, really bad. So we got to stop it before it ever gets there. Thank God we did. But I've lived long enough to know that the tides and the pendulum swings back and forth. And sometimes it swings dangerously back to the other side. And I promise you, if that radical leftist group of people get in there, they will come back with a greater vengeance than we have ever seen. And as a matter of fact, if they do get in there, it could look like this dystopian described in my book. If you like novel mystery thrillers, let me put in a plug here. If you like novel mystery thrillers that has a little bit of cultural commentary and it has a little bit of faith-based material in it, and it also has good, clean romance with a lot of plot twist, a lot of mystery, a lot of suspense, then you ought to check out my latest book, The Final Flame. You can find it on Amazon, or you can email us at revealedpublications@gmail.com. If you email us at that, we'll give you the details on how to get a signed copy. Because if we don't stand up, what's described in this book could become a reality. I love America. I'm a red-blooded American. I'm glad our president is trying to make America great again. He's doing an incredible job. I don't expect perfection, but I'm glad he's working hard every single day. I'm glad the radical left has been defeated. Let's keep them defeated. I love you, America. God bless you. I pray you have a great day.